Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review, and I'm here today to talk to you about diversity in the Power Rangers franchise. You know, you have to give it up to Power Rangers when it comes to breaking barriers and stuff like that, because this is a kids show that's been going on for 30 years, came out in the early 90s, and even back in the early 90s, the show's creators understood that diversity is very important to telling stories. This is truly a phenomenon because even though the 90s was very diverse for the most part, it still revolved around that whole white straight male era, you know, because like back in the earlier days, all you saw was nothing but white people on TV. All you saw nothing but straight people on TV. The male characters were always front and center, and the males were pretty much the main attraction of the shows. And so like you will have people of color, but they will be sprinkled in. Maybe you'll have one or two, and then most likely there'll be a stereotype, or it'll be a white person painting their skin that of the color of, like, you know, a different race. And in the 90s, things started to get slightly better. You started to see more inclusions and stuff, but it was still that stereotypical role for the most part. And, you know, you have to give it up to Saban, whether you like him or not. The man understood that diversity is very important. Him being a man of color himself. And so with Power Rangers, as we all know, it is based off of Super Sentai, a Japanese superhero type show. And then over there in Japan, well, of course, everybody's Japanese. It makes sense. And so, but over here in America, things have to be changed up. And one of the things that they changed up were the races. Now, even though they had diversity, it doesn't mean that all of them are somewhat stereotypical, especially that Mighty Morphin. Well, mostly Mighty Morphin being the first season of them all. And, you know, even though the characters are great, sadly, as time has passed on, some of the people who starred in Power Rangers have not been such great people. I don't feel like naming no names right now, but you know who I'm talking about. And so if you just happen to see a person's face blurred or whatever, or have the green like throw up face, most likely they did something really, really terrible. However, I'm only gonna restrain that to the worst of the worst. That being the dude from Samurai, and for the most part, I'll just blur out the dude's face from Wild Force, only because, you know, if it truly was self-defense, then, you know, I can understand that. But at that same time, two people against one, how can you not subdue a crazy person? I don't understand that. But anyway, for allegations of, like, you know, money fraud, or like a certain group of people going crazy lately on Instagram, and having like a complete meltdown and stuff, you know, I feel for them having that meltdown, because that was a true meltdown and everything. But, you know, just calm down, relax. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get what you're saying and stuff, but you're saying it the wrong way, and you can't go around blaming other people. You know, other stars were like caught drunk driving, one beating up one's ex. No, it's just all kind of crap. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, I'm only gonna yuck out the face of the dude from Samurai, and I'm probably just gonna blur out the dude's face from like Wild Force. Just in case you've been wondering, because, you know, if you're even new to my channel, you know how I am. And what I'm talking about is like, where did I leave off at? Anyway. Even Saban knew like the inclusion of like diversity is very potent in storytelling, very potent in television, and very potent for young kids to see, so they could idolize people, and not only that, but see themselves in that role. You can say the same thing about like television in the 1950s and 60s, and even sometimes the 70s and stuff. but leave it to a kid's show to break those barriers and everything. Star Trek is another show that comes to my mind that comes to breaking barriers. Whether it be a diverse cast, people from other countries, the first interracial kiss, you name it. You know what I'm saying? Power Rangers had that as well. Power Rangers had two, well, really one real interracial kiss. I believe, now look, this because I say, look, man, you know me. I don't always know what everybody's races are. Let me just put that out here, right now. Sometimes I assume somebody might be Asian, like the Navy Ranger from like Ninja Storm, but then I find out he's Hispanic, and I'm like, what? So I don't always know, but eventually I will find out. And some other people, I still just don't know. And even though you just don't know, you know there's something. And you know, and so it's like, you know, I'm not the best person when it comes to race, especially those that are mixed, and especially those that come from New Zealand. But I try to do my best, you know what I'm saying? And Wikipedia would be really helpful if they put those people's races there. Or if like Fandom Wiki would go back and do that, but they don't do that no more. Man, Fandom Wiki used to be a great thing for Power Rangers. You could learn everything about Power Rangers on that site. But it's like, probably like after the Fox Kids era, they're like, we don't care no more. Just put the basic info on there. and let the freak flag fly. And so, like, you know, Jason David Frank, who played Tommy Oliver, I believe he is half white, half Native American, or just Native American. I'm not really sure, but he's probably half white, because it's like, I know he had a brother that was Native American, and they had that whole story arc where he learned about his Native American roots. So perhaps he really is in real life. I don't know. I don't know if he ever stated that. Oh, also, may he rest in peace. But if so, then we had the very first interracial kiss that I know of in a children's programming and stuff. That's the first one that comes to my mind when he kissed Kimberly, who is white. And then, of course, in Ninja Steel, even though they never kissed on the lips, because by that time, you know, Power Rangers are like, no kissing. So Tommy and Kimberly were the only ones who were ever really allowed to kiss. And the only ones who were ever allowed to have a real relationship. But then come Ninja Steel, they decided to change that and have these other two be in a relationship. The yellow and the white ranger, I can't think of their names right now because I really just don't like Ninja Steel all that much. That season disappointed me. That season disappointed me. I was hyped like you don't know. And they dropped the ball big time in that season. But anyways, the Yellow Ranger was white, and the White Ranger, I'm not 100% sure, because she's from New Zealand. She might be half black and might be half something else. But either way, she's a woman of color. And they kissed on the cheek, and they held hands, and they dated. And, you know, that is really big to show diversity in the form of an interracial relationship. Because with Tommy and Kimberly, you really can't tell. And we really didn't know about Tommy's Native American roots until, well, Alien Rangers, to be completely honest with you, but mostly that in Zeo. And so diversity in Power Rangers just doesn't go to race alone. Oh, no. It even goes to that of body size, age, and from other countries. That is what's so great about Power Rangers, is that in television back in the older days, it had to be skinny, and it had to be white, and it had to be mostly male. But Power Rangers decided to show real people. That is amazing right there. It was educating people in ways people didn't even really realize. Like, you know, go back to Mighty Morphin. And you have Miss Appleby, who was the teacher at their school. Now, she wasn't in that many episodes, and she never had a solo episode, and she only showed up for like a couple of minutes here and there. But she was there all throughout Mighty Morphin, and some of Zeo, and a little bit of Turbo. And not only was she an older lady, but she was I'm trying to think, like a bigger lady and stuff, And so, like, that was very unusual to see in a kid's programming, because normally if you were to see a bigger person, they would be either like your parent or they would be the comedic lead. And of course, Bulk was that, but I'll get him a little bit later. And so even though, like, she never had a prominent role, she did, I believe, help shape the courses of some people. I believe I heard in an interview one time she said that some people have become teachers because of her character, because they love Power Rangers so much. I believe that's what she said. I can't really remember. It's been a lot of years since I saw that interview. And so, like, I love the fact that they decided to add, like, a person who is bigger as opposed to just skinnier people. And then, of course, let's get to the biggest dude, no puns intended. I'm talking about, like, one of the most famous people in Power Rangers history. The man has had more episodes in Power Rangers than any other person in Power Rangers history. Well, living, that is. I don't know if Alpha beats him out, because Alpha has been popping up in other seasons. But this dude is human and everything. He's organic, and that is Bulk. Bulk was a large dude, you know what I'm saying? And he was the bully. Now, sadly, they went into stereotypical, like, storytelling with the bigger person. He is comedic relief throughout the entire thing. He does slapstick. And he was like a bully at one point instead of getting bullied. But his story progressed as time went to him becoming like a hero in his own right and a good person in his own right. And so even though it sucks they went that comedic route with him, it's still great that they included a person of his size to be on the show. And let's not forget Adele and Ernie, the owners of the juice bar. Ernie was, a lot of people don't consider Ernie this, but they just consider him as the person who worked in a juice bar and a friend to the Teenage Rangers. But that man was also a mentor in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. He wasn't the mentor as like Zordon when it came to the Power Rangers. He was the mentor to the civilian Power Rangers when they are out of suits. He always encouraged them to do better. He always gave them advice. He always tried to help out. Like when, I don't know who it was, but somebody had a hard time with football. And so he was helping that person, learning some moves and stuff. And a lot of people really didn't catch on to that he mentored the Power Rangers when they was in civilian form. He never knew who they were. Even still, probably to this day, may he rest in peace. His character never knew because he left at the beginning of Turbo. And so, like, and he was a large dude, you know what I'm saying? And he is one of the most beloved characters in Power Rangers history. And Adele, she showed up in space, and she wasn't there a lot because the Rangers were mostly in space and not on Earth. But she was a great addition to the cast, and she was a woman of color and a woman of size. She had personality. She gave advice to Andros and stuff. She gave advice to the other Rangers. She was the equivalent of who Ernie was, you know? And so, but when it comes back to, like, say, race and everything, you know, you gotta give it up to Power Rangers. We had, like, a black superhero in Mighty Morphin. We had an Asian superhero in Mighty Morphin. Zack was one of the first, like, black superheroes I ever seen. I think Trini might have been one of the first Asian superheroes I've ever seen. And, you know, originally we were going to have a Latino as the Yellow Ranger, but she dropped out of, like, before the show even aired. And then, you know, with other seasons, my God, we had like the very first black person to play like a Blue Ranger in Alien Rangers. That is something that like carries on today because there's been multiple black people to play Blue Power Rangers. I don't know what the other races are of the alien people because they wore those masks. So I don't really know. So I can't really go into that. But like, with Zeo, we've had like triplets and everything. Never had that in the Power Rangers season before. I know. I know. And I believe they are Italian. If they are Italian, and they are the first Italians that I know of to be in Power Rangers and to be an actual Power Ranger. And then the second Italian person that I've ever known to be in Power Rangers is, of course, Maya from Lost Galaxy, because Serena Vincent is Italian, even though they never stated that on the show. And let's not forget how Cassie was the very first Asian female to be the Pink Ranger, something that, is sporadically seen in a couple of other seasons of Power Rangers. I still don't know what race Ashley is. I honestly, God, don't know. If she is Italian, then technically she would be the first Italian female. She might be Italian, I think. But then again, I thought she was Hispanic at one time. But I think the actress said she was, I don't know. The actress keeps saying different things. One day she'll say she's white. The other times when she gets kind of like flustered, she say her ghetto side will come out. And I think one time she said Italian or she said Hispanic. I can't remember what. But then somebody else online said that she might be Filipino. Yo, I don't know. I truly don't know. But let us not forget one of the most like jaw-dropping moments of Power Rangers history. Oh, by the way, these pictures are not going to line up to what I'm talking about. I've made it a point in my videos probably about a year and a half ago that I got a lot of videos to get through, so I have to rush. And so I just put up random pictures, whatever. Sometimes they do line up, sometimes they don't. Sometimes I do purposely line them up, and sometimes I don't. So, the most jaw-dropping thing of them all, a black person was the Red Ranger. What? He was the actual leader. Now, technically, we've had our very first Hispanic Red Ranger, but he was never the leader. That was Rocky. But TJ came in as a brand new character, and Tommy hand-selected him to be the Red Rangers. The producers and writers, they realized that it needed to be more representation, and well, Zach was a little bit of a stereotype, always dancing around. Yes, we do that. Yes, us black people do that sometimes, especially when we hear music. I do it in the grocery store sometimes and I have to stop myself. But that is very stereotypical. And just like I said, stereotypes are based on actual real life fact. We can't swim, we love our Kool-Aid, and we love our chicken, and we also love something else that I probably can't say because who knows if kids are listening. So anyways, he was like, the leader of the Turbo group, and he was black, and this was very shocking. He became one of the best leaders we've ever had in Power Rangers. He was just a rando dude who did the right thing and who was very brave and courageous, and never gave up. Sadly, I don't like the end of how he blew up his Megazords just to get rid of that one really powerful monster. I always thought that was kind of weird. Maybe that was part of the Sentai, or maybe they edited it so it could be like that in the Sentai. But yeah, that was always something that kind of weirded me out. And sadly, and this is the part that's even suckier, he is the first, well, no, he's not the first leader to fail because the original command center got blown up by Rita and Laura Zed when they had Godar and Rito do it. So technically, Tommy will be the first leader to fail that had their command center blown up and powers taken away. But anyway, TJ is the second. And so their power chamber got blown up. They lost their powers. And that dude decided, you know what? We can't just sit around on Earth because there are still aliens out there and Zordon has been captured and the evil force is going to destroy the entire universe. That dude convinced his friends to go out into outer space. and fight the unknowns and everything with no powers. If that ain't bravery, boy, I don't know what is. But sadly, as we all know, come in space, he got demoted and gave his leader status and Red Ranger status to that of a white dude. Now, like I said before, that was the story that was written. Even though I was irritated and pissed, I was just okay because that was the story and it made sense because Andros was indeed from space. But now with the whole cosmic theory thing, it's just like, ah man, y'all could have done that. And in fact, they was. In fact, the original plans for In Space were to have no Andros, no Astronomer, have the Turbo Rangers go into space, get their new powers, and TJ would have still been the leader. And of course, when he was in space, he got demoted to Blue and second command of the American footage, but third in command of the Sentai footage, which made no sense for the Carlos character. Speaking of Carlos, this dude was like, the third like Hispanic person to be in Power Rangers. Steve Cardenas. Let me get into Steve Cardenas a little bit first. Now, Steve Cardenas, he came in. I didn't know what race that dude was. I thought he was white. Many years later, I found out that dude is actually Hispanic. Blew my mind. And so he was the first Hispanic Red Ranger, but sadly, he was never the leader. And then he got demoted to Blue and stuff. They always want to demote the people of color when they're Red Rangers to Blue. Why is that? And then Karen Ashley, she was, not only was she black, but she was Hispanic. She's Afro-Latino. And she was like, the first like African and Latino Yellow Ranger. And we would have many Latinos and many, well, not many Latino Yellow Rangers, but many black Yellow Rangers and stuff. And so Carlos, he went from being like a Green Ranger to a Black Ranger, and he was second command in the Sentai footage. And, let's not forget how Patricia, she played Cassie, and she was the first Asian, like, Pink Ranger. Because normally a Pink Ranger would be, like, white. And let's not forget Delphine, who was a female, and she was, like, the leader of the Alien Rangers, because she was the White Ranger, because at that time Tommy was the White Ranger and leader, so they decided to keep that, even though technically the Red Ranger was really the leader in Sentai and in the field. But she was technically the person in command when it came to the Alien Rangers, and that was great. Females got to see a leadership role when they watched this on the show. And then let people know that females are just as strong as males, and they can lead a team just as great as a male. And then, as time passed, I think the dude from Wild Force, I think he's Hispanic, which would be the second Hispanic Red Ranger, but this time he is the actual leader. And let's not forget that, like, Taylor, she led the team as a Yellow Ranger, and she was just the female of the group. Then when it went over to the Disney era, things changed because they went to a different country, and then we started getting more races, a lot more races. We had the very first Samoan Red Ranger, although this one actress said he's also black. So if so, he's half black and half Samoan. And but yeah, a Samoan Red Ranger or a Samoan cast member in general, that is very, very, very shocking. I never thought I would see that in Power Rangers. Heck, I didn't even know what a Samoan was at that time. I think I did because The Rock is half black and Samoan, and I don't know when I actually found that out. And the fact that they would have a Samoan, like, most people don't even know what Samoan people are or what Samoa is. And that's just great that they would include that in their show. So when the show did go over to New Zealand, they really did help benefit in showing more inclusion to that of other races and more diverse races. We've had like Tessa, who is the Green Dino Fury now, Cosmic Fury Ranger, she is actually Mari. Now, I know she plays a Hispanic on the show because, you know, Harvey's Hispanic in real life, but she's actually Mari, and most people don't even know what that is, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. But, like, they are very native to over there of New Zealand. And, you know, how many people ever thought they would ever see that race be like, you know, a Power Ranger? And we've had Pacific Islanders. We've had Zato, who's half black, half Asian. We've never had an Asian Red Ranger before, ever in Power Rangers history. And he is the first. But of course, he is biracial. And so, like, trying to think of other stuff. Oh, what's her name? Shelby. She was the very first ever black female to be a Pink Ranger, and that came in the new Neon Saban era of Nickelodeon. It took nearly 25 years or so just to have a black actress play the Pink Ranger. That is insane. And cause it took that long, like that long. I don't know if we've ever had a Hispanic Pink Ranger, but we've had a Hispanic Yellow Ranger in the form of Z. At least I think she's Hispanic. She might be Hispanic and Italian. I don't know. Like I said, I just don't know. But I'm pretty sure she's Hispanic. And she better be Hispanic because I got to do my Hispanic History Month. And I plan on making a video about her. So hopefully she is. And, you know, because Karen Ashley was the first, but of course she was biracial. And then so it took all those years to SPD to have like another Hispanic Yellow Ranger. And, you know, I still don't know what the actress is from Ninja Steel, but she was the first woman, oh no, the second woman of color to be a White Ranger in terms of female, because of course in Wild Force, I think her name is Alyssa. I'm not really sure 100% what she is. I know there was a Native American man, I believe, who played her father, but I believe she's also Hispanic. So she would be truly the first of that race to be like a White Ranger and stuff. And then let's not forget about the Hispanics we've had being Red Rangers and like Dino Charge and Ninja Steel. And let's not forget we've had 2 Asian cast members in RPM playing both the Gold and the Yellow Ranger and stuff. And they were additional Rangers. And let's not forget the lack of diversity we've had in Jungle Fury. My God, what was they thinking? And let's not forget how Kai was the first like Asian Blue Ranger. And there have been plenty of Asian characters playing Blue Rangers. I don't know why they always pick those to be the Blue Rangers for. Why can't they ever be like a different color? And so, like, some amazing and underrated and unknown representation in race comes from that of Daggeron from Mystic Force, who is also Doggy Kruger in SPD, but we won't count that because he's a dog. I do that for the alien part. But also Elsa from Dino Thunder, because their races, I've never even heard of theirs. Now, look. You know me. I can't pronounce certain countries. I can't pronounce certain races. And I can't pronounce certain names. But I'm going to try to do my best for this video. I'm going to lick my lips and just hope for the best. So, when it comes to that of Daggeron, he is the very first, like, Power Ranger to be of, Tongan like descent. I've never even heard of that. Like, that's very fascinating. And he's the very first Power Ranger to be that. And he's a Gold Ranger. And when it comes to Elsa, she's the very first. I don't know if they pronounce their E's with an actual E or A, but it's either T Awawa. And that's basically like a combination of Mari and like Hapu? Hapu? Look, man, like I said, I don't know. But, that's like some really cool stuff. And it's like, if it wasn't for like, Power Rangers going on to New Zealand, hey, we wouldn't even have that. You know what I'm saying? And just think of barriers that have been broken. Like if it was still would have been in America, we just would have had the traditional like races and stuff. But now we get like all these sprinkles of like different races from like around the world. When I say New Zealand got all kind of stuff up in that country, boy, they got all kinds of stuff up in that country. Okay, let me make a little insert right here because I actually never knew this until just now. After recording the audio for this, I stopped and I pondered something. What the heck is Austin St. John? It's never really been revealed on the show, like what his race is, or just in the fandom in general, what his race is, because a lot of people just don't know. I remember when I first saw him, I assumed he was white. Then I stopped and I thought to myself, he is very tan. Maybe he's like Hispanic or something, or maybe Italian, but I just never knew. So I decided to look it up. And turns out that the alleged money fraud dude is actually has ancestry in Spanish, Japanese, Italian, Irish, Native American. So when it comes to race and diversity, this man like takes like the top spot because he's just about everything there is except for black. So it's kind of like, so wow, we really have had a very first Asian Red Ranger because he has Japanese in him. Now, I don't know the specifics of his race in general, as in parents and this and that. It just says ancestors. But yeah, if he has all that mixed in his bloodline, which technically a lot of people have a lot of stuff mixed in their bloodline. Like a lot of white people actually have sub-Saharan, like African in them and stuff like that. A lot of black people have Native American and white in them. So I don't know what his parents are specifically. So I'm just going to say, yeah, he's the multi-race ranger or the interracial ranger or whatever. So, but whatever, I guess he takes like the top spot in like diversity and stuff. Let's not forget about how like Trip was the very first Asian like Green Ranger. I think he's Asian. I hope he's Asian. I just said that. And how Cam was the very first like additional Asian like Green Ranger. Like I don't think there's ever been a time in history where like, an Asian person was the additional sixth Ranger. And also let's not forget in, what was it, Dino Thunder, the White Ranger was Hispanic, and he was, the very probably like first Hispanic male to be a White Ranger, but not that a female. But he is the first Hispanic to be that and of additional Ranger, even though he was the fifth. That was a very unique season, because that was just like, they only had 5 Rangers, but yet the additional ones were 4 and 5. That was always weird. Power Rangers also made history by casting their very first Lebanese Power Ranger in the form of the Red Ranger Nick from Mystic Force. I have no idea what Lebanese even is. I think I had a friend in college who was one. We're not friends now, but like I think she said she was Lebanese. I also know Janice from Mean Girls with Lebanese and everything. I still am not sure what exactly that is. But yeah, like that's the very first, and I think probably only one, he's an Australian actor, that we've ever had in like Power Rangers history. And let's give it up for the 2 Dino seasons where we had 2 people of color playing a Gold Ranger, that in Dino Charge and Dino Fury, one being Hispanic and the other being black. And those were the first ever, like, Hispanic and black Gold Rangers. And Gold Rangers are cool. They always normally are people of color. Okay, I want to make a correction insertion right here. I completely forgot about Ravi from Beast Morphers. He's the very first like Indian like Power Ranger, and he's the Blue Ranger. I forgot all about Beast Morphers and stuff. I don't know why that escaped my mind. I never think about that season for some bizarre reason. It was actually pretty good. And so, yeah, he's our very first like Indian Ranger. So for the most part, they've covered like a lot of different bases and a lot of different races in Power Rangers history. I know in my video at some point in time I said they haven't had an Indian one, but my bad. I completely forgot about this dude. Can't forget about Damon being the very first Black Green Ranger, which was a trend that they later did in the very next season. But you know what is weird about Lost Galaxy and Lightspeed Rescue? You can tell that the casting director was just trying to duplicate the formula of the cast that they had in like, you know, the other season. They look very racially similar. Even as far as going to get two bald black dudes for the Green Ranger and a Yellow Ranger whose race you can't really tell just by looking and stuff. But trying to think if there are any other major races that I left out. I don't really think there are. Oh no, I'll get into that later. And so like, let's jump from race to something completely different. Let's go to that of gender and stuff. You know, like female representation has always been big in Power Rangers. People love the female Rangers. Normally they are associated with yellow and pink. In the very first season of Mighty Morphin, they gender bent the Yellow Ranger because they knew that they needed more females on the team other than just one lonely female Ranger. And so normally in Power Rangers history, the female is that of gender bent. It's been that way ever since up until that of the Disney era, which in the Disney era, we got to see our very first, no, I take that back. Alien Rangers had the very first male Yellow Ranger. And Alien Ranger, people keep forgetting about that. See, they want you to forget that season. They never really bring it up. And they just now brought out the toys for him on the Lightning Collection. And so, like, speaking of Lightning Collection, can we get Maya to have her full saber? Like, seriously, can we just get that? Because she don't need a half mini saber. I don't want to see them years from now bring out another Maya toy where she has her different hairstyle in the second half of Lost Galaxy and then she has her full saber. I am not buying two toys and everything. And so, like, you know, we had our very first male Yellow Ranger all the way back in Alien Rangers. But then come the Disney era, we started seeing a few more male Yellow Rangers, Dustin being the very first, and then Chip being Dustin being the second, and then Chip being the third. And then let's not forget, in the Neon Saban era, the Nickelodeon, whatever that dude's name is, who is the Yellow Ranger in Ninja Steel. I really try to like blank out Ninja Steel from like my head. And so like, for the longest time, you know, yellow would be like, you know, gender bent. But then the amazement of them all came in Dino Fury, and we had Izzy being the very first female Green Ranger. And she let everybody know she ain't wearing no skirt. She ripped that thing right off. Why? Because of Sentai footage. The Sentai was a male Green Ranger, and so they needed her to not have a skirt. And I'll get into Izzy and the other thing later. That was a big milestone in Power Rangers. And so for the most part, you know, when it comes to gender female Rangers, you know, you gotta give it up to Kendricks for being the very first like female person in Power Rangers to rock the sexy glass look. You know, she wore glasses, she was hot, and she was the research person. So she was very smart in that regard, but she was never as smart as Billy in terms of a scientist. That all changed in Lightspeed Rescue Miss Mayweather was our very true first female scientist in Power Rangers history. A role that will later go on many eras later in the Disney era and that of the Neon Saban. Let's not forget Haley from that of Dino Thunder. She was brilliant. And a lot of people, they need to start bringing her up more. I don't know what happened to that actress. And let's not forget about Kat Max from that of SPD. And then she got to be a ranger for one lonely episode. That was cool. She was the first female scientist to be an actual Power Ranger. And then, you know, let's not forget Kendall, of all people, the person that got me back into Power Rangers, because I saw her morph and I was like, oh, a Purple Ranger, that's very rare. And then I saw what she looked like. I'm like, whoa. She was not only a mentor, she was not only the scientist, but she was indeed a Power Rangers in the later half, the very first to be all three things. And you know, let's not forget that Dino lizard looking lady from Dino Fury, who is female and who is the scientist and also somewhat of their mentor and stuff. And, you know, when it comes to Power Rangers, the Yellow Rangers have always been the toughest females of, like, you know, the group. They're fierce, they're strong, they don't take no crap. Sadly, the Pink Rangers have always been somewhat like girlish or dainty, especially with Sid. She was probably the most girliest one of them all, but you know, Sid showed that she is just that tough. And of course, we can't not mention Jen from SPD, who was the toughest Pink Ranger of all them time. She was literally the leader of like the Time Force like police squad that was back on Earth back in the year 2001. Sure, West was the field leader and the leader of the Red Ranger, but people consider her to be like a co-leader, if not the leader altogether. And she took up the mantle perfectly from Delphine, who was, of course, the first leader of, like, you know, a first female leader of the Power Rangers. And when it comes to diversity, cultural-wise, Power Rangers, not only is it seen all throughout the world, but you have like actors and actresses to, like, you know, oh crap, I forgot. I'm back to female again. Let's not forget the very first female Red Ranger we ever had in SPD, even though she was bad and everything. But that was the very first we ever had. And she's a woman of color, hopefully. Hopefully that's not just a tan. It might be, but who knows, you know what I'm saying? And let's not forget whoever that actress name was, that very first real like good female Red Ranger we had in Samurai. And so, like, you know, but she was only part-time. And of course now Amelia will be the full-time female Red Ranger in Cosmic Fury. And this has been a long time coming because everybody like myself have wanted to see a full-time female. Sadly, it is the cost of controversy, because not only is she taking her powers away from another black Red Ranger, this is now being the third, because, you know, the dude in SPD gave up his powers to a white dude, and yeah, no, it's just, why do they always have to get demoted? And, you know, the other controversial thing is a lot of people just don't see her as leadership material, because it's kind of like she never displayed any of that in Dino Fury. So we'll just have to see and wait what happens in 10 lonely episodes. They need more than just 10, man. And so, like, you know, so let's now get back to the cultural thing. We've had Power Ranger cast members from like all over pretty much. We've had them from America, Canada, Australia. Kathleen Sutherland was the very first Australian like Power Ranger we've ever had. We've had them come from New Zealand, because of course it's filmed over there. And with New Zealand, you know, there's been a plethora of different races and stuff. I don't know if we've ever had a British person or not. They pretend to be British on the show, but they're really not. And those are really the only countries I can really ever think of that, oh, of course, Samoa and everything. And let's not forget Brazil. The Ninja Steel Pink Ranger is Brazilian and everything. I don't know if she's white Brazilian or like Hispanic or Spanish Brazilian, but she's from Brazil and everything. And that was really cool. Like, you know, whoever thought we would ever have somebody come over from Brazil? And so, like, trying to think what else I want to talk about. Let's talk about breaking the biggest barrier of them all, LGBT sexuality. Izzy, nobody saw this coming. We just assumed, okay, she's a tomboy who likes to wear pants and shorts and hates skirts, but no. She is the very first on-screen like character to be part of the LGBT community. She is a lesbian. And with her story arc, even though you don't get many story arcs talking about her sexuality, the only time that is when we found out the big reveal. And when her brother assumed she just liked dudes and everything. And when he found out she was a lesbian, he was totally cool with that. They didn't want to make a big fuss on like a kid's program. And they probably also didn't want to be too preachy because of all these toxic like people that have been popping up lately and stuff. And even though they never kiss on the lips, they kiss on the cheek and then they hold hands and stuff. And when it comes to Izzy and her sexuality and her preference of being like, you know, I guess you could say like, what is it, like gender fluid in the way she dresses, she likes to dress in more like male type clothes. Like when she went to prom, she wanted to wear a tux and not that of a dress. The fact that she wanted to wear a tux can go either way of being a tomboy or gender fluid. And so they made an actual story arc about that when it came to her mom giving her a dress by mistake. Izzy assumed that her mom just didn't understand her and wanted her to be this dainty little girl in dresses, but it was literally a mistake. And because Izzy picked up the wrong outfit and stuff, it got delivered to her. And that was neat. They didn't have to do that storyline, but they did it because they wanted to break barriers and stuff. Now, we've had actually LGBT gay male characters play Power Rangers, but they had to play straight characters. The famous one of them all is David Yost from Mighty Morphin being the Blue Ranger. Sadly, it came with controversy because he was berated and treated completely bad behind the scenes by that of like the people who worked on the show. I don't know if the actual castmates were being mean to him, but I know like he said the production crew and this and that. Which caused him to leave Power Rangers. Now, the other LGBT gay male stars of the show, I don't know if they're really out. Fandom Wiki says they are, but I don't know if they are. But we've had other male gay characters, well, not characters, male stars being in Power Rangers. Hopefully, they were treated better. And, you know, this was something huge because, you know, people who are the LGBT, they have to hide who they are. And especially that of the 90s because, you know, you saw what happened to David Yost and everything. And it's sad that people have to hide who they are just so they can fit in society. And, you know, hopefully those other male stars that I did not name have come out and could share their experiences and everything with, like, you know, other people in the community and that of the Ranger community. And so, but Izzy being like the first character of, like, you know, LGBT status, that was really, really huge. And it took, what was it, 2000 and either 21 or 2022 just for something like that to happen. And Power Rangers has been around since the early 90s. And so let's not forget about alien representation. Like, you know, yeah, I know aliens are not real. I hope they're not real because I don't want Earth to be invaded and everything. But like, hopefully they are not real. But, you know, Power Rangers have had some really unique alien rangers. And the cool thing about it, in the Fox Kids era, we had the most interesting story arcs involving aliens. we've had aliens in the Disney era too, but they weren't as like well put together, especially even in the Neon Saban era. They weren't really all that well put together in terms of world building. But in the now Hasbro era, they have gone back to that great world building of alien rangers and stuff. The very first being, well, the alien rangers themselves. They were technically fish people who had to survive underwater. And they had to come to Earth to help save the day because the rangers got turned into little kids. And, they kept drying out. So that became a big story plot for their 10 episode arc. And they were very unique. They could move water around. I don't think they were psychic, but they had they had a very cool visual look to them with those weird like things on their heads and the way they moved and the way they talked. And of course the actress who plays Delphine, she's the one who came up with like, the finger gestures and everything, the way they talk to give it more of an alien vibe. And then of course we had Traya Triforia, who was an alien, and then his alien race have they're like three separate entities, and those three separate entities have different emotions. One has courage, one has wisdom, and the other one has something I can't remember right now. But I always wonder about them. Are those the only three emotions that they have on their planet, or do they have others? And if they separate, will the others be able to experience other emotions? Sadly, they did not go into that story arc because, the actors who played Trey, they decided they was gonna leave because they didn't want to get typecast or have Power Rangers ruin their career. Even though they said they had a movie deal and all this other stuff. So sadly, we only got 5 episodes with Trey and everything. But still, the fact that they was able to, one person whose body was unbalanced and they had to split into 3, it had those different emotions, was very unique and interesting. And then of course, we had Andros and Corone. Are they considered aliens? Because Andros, or also Zane, because Andros told Ashley that humans are not Earth is not the only place where humans exist. So is he indicating that he's human with just special abilities? If so, he could control things with his mind. He could make things move. And that's really unique. Also, everybody on his planet, for whatever reason, hair is split into 2 different colors, which is also a nice visual thing to it. And let's not forget the Masked Rider. I think he came from the planet Edenoi or something like that. And even though the Masked Rider had his own series, he was first introduced in the Power Rangers as sort of this backdoor pilot type thing. They had these little gemstones on their head. They could shoot some type of beam from it. I think he had telepathy. Maybe he was psychic. It's been a while since I saw Masked Rider. I can't find that nowhere, and I want to rewatch it so bad. Because I haven't seen that since I've been a kid or a teenager. And who? Oh, Maya. You can't forget her. She's from Miranor, a jungle-like planet. And people on Miranor, they have a sixth sense where they can understand animals and beast animals and galactic beasts and stuff. And that was very unique. It's kind of I wish they would have explored that more. But the fact that she had a sixth sense was really, really interesting. Now, is Merritt considered an alien from Wild Force? I'm not really sure. So let's skip them. And let's get on over to the Disney era, which they didn't have that many aliens and stuff. The only ones I could really think of is the Mercury Ranger, which body can go into this gelatinous mercury metallic type state, which was very fascinating. And their alien race could do these tribal letters, and they can do this type of magical stuff. And they can do this incantation type spell. So that was really neat. But the really cool thing is that their body turned into a metallic state. And in the Neon Saban era, I can only think of that Silver Ranger dude. I don't even know what was special about his alien race. I really don't. I just know he came from an alien planet. He looks human, and his people was later turned into slaves, and planet was destroyed. That's all I know about him. Like, there was nothing really special about like his alien race. But then when you get into Dino Charge, we had that one, I forget his name, but he was that giant bird. And I was like, whoa, man, that's about as most alien as you can get, 'cause he looks like a monster. And when he morphed, of course, he went into human-like form. Now, the whole Dino Fury with Zato's people and stuff, they had a very cool visual with these antennae on top of their heads. I don't really know, other than that, what their special ability is for being aliens. I don't remember about watching Dino Fury, but visually they are cool. And let's not forget about Justin, the very first Kid Ranger. I still don't like the idea of a Kid Ranger, but hey, if that's not diverse, I don't know what it is. He was just a kid who showed up and he became a Power Ranger, and when he morphed, he turned into like a full teenage adult looking size. Weird, but hey, whatever, you know what I'm saying? Oh, and when it comes to aliens, man, I almost forgot about Trip. And like how he was able to see, like, certain things, not necessarily in the future, but what was exactly his power? Like, he could see images of things happening, I think, in real time, like bad stuff happening, And that was always like a really cool power that he had. And of course, he had that jet green hair and that little ruby thing on top of his head. And I can't believe I forgot about Doggy Kruger. That dude was a giant dog, and he had a great look to him. And let's not forget about the Phantom Ranger, who we never got to see. So we never knew really, like, who was underneath that, like, costume, but most likely it was that of an alien. When Tori was the very first blue female ranger, I was very shocked. I never thought I would ever see that. I never thought I would see Blue wear a skirt. And she was an amazing Power Ranger, a very brave, very tough, and one of my favorite all-time Blue Rangers. And then, of course, that would later like be brought up again in that Mystic Force, when we had our very second female like Blue Ranger. We've only had 2 female Blue Rangers, and it just was so great for women like representation to take on like a male color. And it wasn't even gender bent. That's the thing about it. That's how it was in the Sentai. And I wish they would have more like blue female rangers. I forgot to add them in my female section, but I'm just like inserting it in now. So I'm inserting it in a little bit earlier than when I get into that of the female section probably. Power Rangers also decided to be diverse in showing older people be Power Rangers. I'm not talking about like Merit, who's like thousands of years old. I'm talking about actual older people. We had in Ninja Steel, we had Brody's dad and Mechanic Dude. Like, they donned the Red Ranger suit. Now, one episode, and those 1 episodes only, and then all of a sudden his dad just kind of like disappears again. But, this was a great thing coming, because the dude who played Mechanic always wanted to be a Power Ranger and stuff. And now his dream has finally come to fruition. And then let's not forget, in Dino Charge, that one dude who was older was the original Purple Ranger in Dino Charge. And I don't know if that was because of like Sentai or what, but the fact that they did that was really cool, And let's not forget Mystic Force. Like, I can't even think of that Red Ranger's like name. I really can't, which is funny because the main focus was about him. But both his parents were Power Rangers, and they were much older and stuff, and made the actress who played the White Ranger in that rest in peace. And I can't end this without giving a shout out to people who are from like the Special Olympics. They had that one character who was autistic in Dino Fury. She didn't have that much of a big role, but she broke barriers on Power Rangers because we've never had a person of who was autistic before on this show, and the fact that they was able to like at least include her really shows that they care about diversity. Not Jungle Fury. They didn't care. But the newer Power Rangers people, they care. And it was really cool how in Mighty Morphin they wanted to show a person who was dyslexic. And I think they even had one blind person, I believe. I'm not 100% sure, but I believe in like, Mighty Morphin. And let's not forget about female representation in forms of villains with Trakina, Astronema, Rita, and of course, Divatox. And let's not forget about Divatox's sister, who was like a mentor to the Power Rangers, and she was female. But she only lasted one season though. And so, I know I've been talking for a really long time, but I wanted to just emphasize on the importance of diversity and how Power Rangers, a kids show that started off in the 90s and still going on to this day, knew the importance of what representation meant to all the people around the world. Now, they still have a long ways to go. There's never been no type of like, Afghanistan, Indian type people on the show that I know of. They really need that. They don't have any Armenian, and there are probably a bunch of other races I can't even think of right now, like Jewish. I don't think there's ever been like a Jewish person on Power Rangers. Except for, I think, in Zeo, in that Christmas episode, they had one Jewish character, and he was the only Jewish person in Power Rangers history, but he was never a Power Ranger, but still, he was a recurring cast member. And so it would be nice if they were to bring in more representation, maybe have a heavier, well, they probably can't do a heavier set person to be a Power Ranger because of the Sentai footage, but now we see they're starting to step away from Sentai and starting to do their own thing. And hopefully Power Rangers will be around for many, many more years, because even though it's the adults mainly watching now, still young people are watching, and young people need to be taught. They need to be taught of different cultures. They need to learn how to respect people. And they, more importantly, need to see themselves on screen. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.